If it's distracting anybody, then I apologize, but I don't know, this must be a new function of the PowerPoint that I'm using. But I'll keep going here. So basically this program is, I work for the Capital District Regional Planning Commission, which is a group an entity of basically 4 counties in the Capital Region that exists by funding of the counties. And this program and a lot of programs that we do at CDRPC are funded by state entities. So this one specifically, as Roy mentioned, is funded by NYSERDA. Basically an outreach and education campaign to kind of, sorry, I'm just having trouble with my slides here. Basically to kind of get people aware of heat pump technology, help them get quotes if they'd like to kind of evaluate if it's right for their home. There's some other things that we were hoping to get out of this campaign, as it's kind of a new style of campaign. If you're familiar with the idea of a solarized campaign, this is trying to model that. So solarized campaigns have been around for maybe about 15, 20 years or so. And the idea is to get a bunch of people to buy all at once from the same solar company, and you can potentially bring the cost down because they're all within the same area. So I think NYSERDA was hoping to do that with this HeatSmart campaign, but heat pump technology is kind of priced where it is right now. And we're not seeing much market movement with that. But generally, we're still able to kind of do the outreach and education and events like this and get people some quotes, because I think the biggest thing that's important to note about heat pumps is that with any heating system, you know, when it goes, you kind of need it like that day. You know, it's not going to be or very close after that, especially if it's in the winter. So you don't really have time to kind of dig and explore and figure out new technologies. So this kind of gives you the opportunity to evaluate it prior to maybe making that decision or knowing that it's coming up, so that you can be prepared with all of your options when it comes time to replace your heating system. You can see here, this is the region that we work in on the right-hand side here. So we have an 8-county area that we work in, including Columbia County. And we do a lot of events and things like that, and other kind of webinars like this. We talk about energy efficiency, which is a key component of this. Ground source heat pumps, air source heat pumps, and heat pump water heaters. So a big part of this, this program is connecting residents with installers. So when we started this program in 2019, we basically did a big RFP, or a request for proposal, to all the contractors in the Capital Region and said, who wants to be a part of this effort? We're going to do outreach. We're going to, you know, be sending people your way to just get quotes. Some of them may not be moving forward with it because they're just not sure about the technology. And we did get some good responses. So these companies here are the ones that we're working with. I will note all of these companies are very small companies. They only do heat pumps and heat pump related technology for the most part, or kind of like unique technology like that. We don't work with any of the larger installers in the region, although some of them do heat pumps as well. So when we first got these companies, we evaluated them. We made sure that they were, you know, reputable. We worked with NYSERDA to make sure they had good reviews and that they had good installation reviews. And basically NYSERDA can kind of review these contractors on their end as well. So this is what we came down to. And these companies do a mixture of heat pump, geothermal, air source, and hot water heating. And they can all be found on our website if you want a free evaluation. But generally, this presentation is just to get you informed about heat pumps, and you can go with anybody. You know, you don't have to go with one of these contractors. Anybody you feel comfortable with, really, is a good solution. So back to kind of the basics of why we want to talk about heat pumps and why heat pumps are very important and why we need to transition to them, and why don't we just keep the same old fuel that we've had, you know, for, you know, ever and ever. Basically, the biggest thing comes down to the fact that New York State has an 80 by 50 goal of reduction in greenhouse gases. That's a big goal to meet, especially because 75% of energy use in a typical New York home is from heating and cooling, and 32% of greenhouse gas emissions come from heating and cooling. So of course, that's a big threshold to meet. That's obviously not all residents. That can be businesses and large buildings and all types of things. But it's critical to know that this is a big piece that we need to deal with. Now, how does that affect individuals? It's $2,500 a year is what we typically pay in energy bills. And that is the higher end of things, typically for people who have propane and oil. Natural gas can be generally much cheaper to heat houses with. So if there's any way we can reduce those costs and make our homes as comfortable, if not more, it's a good thing to think about. So the idea too with heat pumps and basically how do we get there with heat pumps? Like, why is this important? Is this idea of strategic electrification. So the idea of moving our heating systems and basically everything that we do to be electrified instead of using fossil fuels. Now we're specifically talking about heating. So we're talking about moving off of propane, moving off of oil, and inevitably moving off of natural gas as well. So getting basically our whole house electrified, which is good because if we're thinking about things like solar only covers the electricity in your house, right? So it's only going to make up for electricity. It's not going to make up for any of those other fossil fuels that you're using. So if we can get our house fully electrified, we can then offset it with some solar panels. So that's just something that we're trying to think about in the long term. And then of course you've got electric cars and things like that we can move away from other types of fuels, but we'll talk about heating today. So this is just a map. I think it's a very interesting map, but it basically shows all the people in the capital region that have non-utility gas. So people that have oil, people that have propanes, that use this for heating their houses. There's a lot of blue dots on this map. These are all opportunities for potentially people to convert to heat pumps that haven't thought about it already. I'm sure most of the people on this call, although I know some people that have them already and are just exploring and seeing what's out there. I know Vicki, for example, said she has a heat pump. So, but basically, and the reason this is non-utility gas is because this is really the focus of our campaign right now. Unfortunately, natural gas is very cheap and it's hard to compete with from a perspective of heat pumps. Electricity just isn't as cheap as natural gas is going to be to heat a house. So although it's an important step to make and some people can do it, it's not going to save people money. And I think it's a threshold we need to overcome with some other policies in New York State. But in the meantime, people that are using propane and oil can really save a lot of money with this technology because those fuel costs are pretty high. So really, it's kind of a step process when you're talking about heat pumps, because there are some other things that you do need to consider first. So the very first thing that I recommend anybody does is get a free energy audit if you haven't gotten one. NYSERDA offers free energy audits to any resident in New York State. It's a basic overview. They kind of go through your house. I'll explain it in a minute exactly what they'll look at, but that's really a good starting point. The next step is to basically make the energy improvements that they recommend. So figuring out what you can afford, trying to make your house like as cozy and tight as possible, which is really critical to making sure you're getting the right size heating system or heat pump. So then the next step is to call the contractor and say, all right, my house is nice and tight and sealed. Come on in, see what size heat pump I need or what's going to work for my current system. And then you would install that heat pump. And then the final step, if you're really trying to net zero your house, is to get some rooftop solar and really just basically electrify and then offset all of your carbon emissions with solar electricity. So that's the end goal for anybody that's trying to get net zero. But I think if taking any of these steps is a big thing, and it certainly is a long-term goal for most people, including myself. So I'm going to start with the energy efficiency piece of things. So we're going to talk a little bit about, why you'd want an energy audit, what the energy audit would look like, what energy improvement costs would be. Because again, this is all a critical component. You want to make sure your house is sealed so that you can install a properly sized heat pump. So these are just some of the building envelope concerns that some buildings have. Things like air quality, moisture problems, temperature, obviously temperature, that's something that we're all trying to fix with our heating, with energy efficiency and good heating systems. Ventilation, that may be an issue you have, especially with kitchens, and then combustion system safety. So just generally a bunch of things that we're trying to fix by getting an audit and insulation. So what happens in these free assessments where they come out to your house? And there's a really great video online that we have on our HeatSmart website where they actually show you what a person, what the energy audit would look at and how, the things they'd show you and those types of things if you like visuals. But generally, they're going to do an assessment of your needs. So they're going to figure out what are some of the issues in your house. They're going to do a walkthrough, interior, exterior, combustion safety of your current system. They may do some infrared cameras for some of the gaps to see if the temperature differential is enough, potentially a blower door test, which is basically where they kind of like put up a big thing around your door and they blow air in and they kind of see where the leaks are. And then they develop a home energy report and they recommend some of the energy efficiency and weatherization tactics. Now with weatherization and energy efficiency, they're going to recommend a lot of things, but you may just kind of want to do some of the things because with anything weatherization, it's like you reach a certain threshold where it may or may not make sense to do a big project to seal that when you're not going to see the money savings. So, but some old houses, really, there's a lot that can be done for pretty cheap. So some of the types of improvements that you'd be looking at, things like air sealing, obviously keeping air from leaking out, seals and leaks in the attic and basement with weather stripping foam. So sometimes those things are actually can be DIY. And then insulation, so adding insulation to walls, attic ceiling, rim joists, those types of things. And then typically using cellulose or spray foam installations. So again, a lot of these things can be done yourself, but for larger projects, it's really good to let a pro do it. So just to give an overview of some of the costs for these types of projects, it can vary greatly. So obviously it really depends on your house. And I think that's going to be the whole message you'll take away from this is your house is very unique and it's all going to be all of these costs are going to be very dependent on what you have existing and how big and what the current heating system is and age and a number of factors. But typically around $4,000 to $6,000 is what we see. But it could be as low as $1,000 or up to $10,000 depending on the age and size of your house. Now those look like some big numbers for something that's not as pretty as energy sealing. You don't get much out of it and you don't get to see it every day and use it. It's kind of a boring upgrade, but it is important. So I'll mention two of the programs that I'll talk about at the end too, but these programs specifically cover energy insulation because it is such a critical component and unfortunately people that are low or moderate income aren't able to typically afford these upgrades. So Empower is a New York State program that covers 100% of the cost of upgrades up to $8,000. And that is the income level for a household for two under about $42,000. And then Assisted Home Performance pays for 50% of the cost for like the slightly more median income folks. So it's anybody basically 62,000 and under. And that's Saratoga as well as Columbia counties. But I'll break down some of the household information at the end as well. So you can kind of evaluate and see if it makes sense for your family. But just so you're aware, there are those nice programs in New York State. So I'm done with energy efficiency. Once that's all done, critical component again, something you really don't want to skip, especially if you have an older or drafty house, because if you don't right size your heat pump system, it really can underperform. And that's something we hear time and time again. You really want the best, most size system for the house that you're in, whether it can't be over and it can't be undersized. It's critical that it's the proper size. So now I'm going to go into the heat pump portion of things and like, what is a heat pump, the different types of heat pumps that exist, which is kind of the meat of this presentation. So generally, we're talking about heat pumps, and all three of these technologies have the same basic principles. It's a transfer of heat. So basically, there's heat all around us in the air, in the ground, even in the winter. The air, or the ground specifically, stays a bit more of an ambient temperature, which is why, as we're talking about this, if you think back to your earth science classes from years ago, the idea that the ground kind of stays the same temperature throughout the whole year, whereas the air is obviously more volatile and from winter to summer. So that's why ground source heat pumps are going to be more efficient in the long run, just because it's just easier to transfer that heat. So basically what you're doing instead of combustion is you are transferring heat. So it kind of works in the way of an air conditioner or refrigerator, except for it kind of works, but it works both ways. So basically you're kind of transferring the air, and that's just the gist of what a heat pump is doing. So it's not incredibly complex technology, and generally that's how they all work. So there's three types of heat pumps that we're going to talk about. There is a air source heat pump. There is ground source, or geothermal, as you may have heard them called, heat pumps, and then heat pump water heaters, which are another option as well. Air source and ground source can be used for space heating and cooling, and then hot water heating, geothermal and heat pump water heaters, of course, can do those things. And it's important to note the cooling aspect of this, because a lot of people don't have cooling in air conditioning systems, but all heat pumps provide cooling, as well as the heating. So it's just an added benefit of the situation. I've had people call me and be like, but I don't need cooling. I don't need air conditioning. It's not something that we use. And my answer is, well, then just turn it off in the summer, but it's going to be more efficient in the winter for you than probably what you're using currently. So just an added benefit for anybody that has always wanted that. So I'm going to start with air source heat pumps. So these are the most popular heat pumps by far, just because they're cheaper than geothermal. They're more, they have better applications in a lot of houses that don't have ductwork. But generally you can think of it like an air conditioner that can run in reverse. So just like we just talked about, and it's going to have an outdoor unit or one or more indoor units. There's two types. So there's a ductless system, which is basically like this mini split in the bottom picture here. And basically what that does is you can zone them. So you may have seen these in houses or, businesses or wherever it may be. But basically you can have one per area or one per room. So you can have different rooms, different temperatures. And it's good for situations where people don't have ductwork. So ductwork is really a critical piece to some of the heat pump systems that exist, because that's just the technology. It's forced air. Whereas these systems can kind of be hung on a wall and they create their own forced air. So for people with radiators, additions, those types of things, these are pretty popular. I live in a very old house. I wouldn't say very old compared to some of the houses I've seen, about 110 years old. So not that old in general, but I have radiators and I have cast iron radiators. And for me, putting in ductwork just wouldn't make sense. Plus it's an added expense of anywhere from $15,000 to $20,000 is what we've heard. So these mini splits would make sense for my house. So the other option for air source heat pumps is a ducted system, and that basically looks like that top picture there, where it's kind of like an air conditioning unit outside. You're transferring the air basically in to out, and you're basically moving it through the ductwork. And that's a whole home system. So similar to your current system, but basically, replacing whatever combustion system you may have. And I keep saying combustion systems, but one of the most inefficient ways to heat your house, and you'll see with some numbers, is electric resistance. So if you don't have heat pumps and you have electric heating, that's the most inefficient way. And you'll see some of the pricing in a bit, but basically that's even more inefficient than propane or oil. So the cost of these systems, for ductless single zone, so for like one mini split in a room, it can be $4,000 to $5,000. If you have a multi-zone system, $4,000 per room or per area. And then there's the ducted cold climate, which is basically, this anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000 is what we've heard for the whole house. And it's important to note that cold climate are what all of our installers install. It's probably what you're going to want in upstate New York because they go down to, I believe it's -5 degrees. Excuse me, they need to be rated by NEEP. And basically that just means there's different types of air source heat pumps. There's some that are good for people in Florida, and there's some that are good for people in New York State, but it's good to get the cold climate ones where we live. And those are the only ones that are eligible for rebates as well in New York State. So again, these are just some pictures so you can kind of see, maybe you've recognized these before, but there's outdoor units, which is the ducted systems. And then there's indoor units like the mini splits, mini ducts, floor mount systems, which kind of like look like the ones you see in hotels sometimes. There's ceiling cassettes that can be whole home systems. So there's a bunch of different ways this can be applied, and it really depends on the contractor and the type of technology that they're installing. So lots of different types of brands and things like that. So moving on to the next technology is heat pump water heaters. So basically, the reason I put these next, even though they're not a heating system, is because they basically are air source heat pumps, but they're only going to heat your water system. So instead of a electric resistance or a natural gas or whatever you're using to heat your water, you can use a heat pump for that. So it basically looks a lot like a hot water tank. It's not too different. It uses indoor air to heat your hot water. And then it has backup to meet high demand. So backup electric resistance if you like your water real, real hot, or if you have trouble keeping up with the demand. So the cost of these is anywhere from $2,500 to $3,500. So a little bit more than a typical hot water heater if you've shopped recently. But the the savings is going to be the big piece of this that you're going to get. So this is a picture here. I actually installed a heat pump water heater myself. I do have natural gas, so unfortunately I'm not saving much money, but for me it was kind of like one of those things where here's what I can do to make a difference. I like it. I think it does the job. I don't notice the difference between as far as like my water heating and capacity. I will say that the drawbacks of this, so benefits will start there, 2 to 3 times more efficient than typical water heaters, especially if you're heating with fossil fuels. It provides dehumidification. So if it's in a basement, you need a dehumidifier, you probably won't need it anymore. And then it's affordable. The drawback is it can be a little bit noisy. I don't notice it because it's in our basement, but I could see that if it was in like a closet in your upstairs or you didn't have a basement, you could potentially be a little bit, annoyed by it. And then it also cools the space that it's installed in, because obviously with heat pumps, you're transferring energy. So if you're trying to get them warm, you're pushing out cold. So it does make my basement a little bit cooler than it normally would be, but it dehumidifies it as well. So just some things to consider, and, things that may or may not work for your specific situation. Also, it's a little bit taller traditionally than my old one. So I had to like move my water heater to a different location. So on to the next one, we're going to talk about geothermal, which is probably the one that I think most of you have heard probably the most about. It's, even though it's maybe not the most popular, it's the most efficient way to do it. The reason why it's not the most popular, I think, is sometimes the cost, the upfront cost of it, which, as you can see at the bottom, probably stood out to you. It's pretty, it can be pretty pricey. So similar to an air source heat pump, except for it's going to use ground or groundwater as a heat source sink. So ground staying the same kind of temperature throughout the year typically. It's designed as a central whole home application. So you do need ductwork for geothermal in its current iteration. There are some studies that are coming out and some people that are trying to make this work for what they call water to water systems. So if you have radiators or something, but it's just not there. They have the technology. Basically with the radiator, your water has to get to a certain temperature in order to warm the room. And these systems just can't get to that temperature there yet. So basically, it's just really important to, think about the ductwork application if you don't have it, which can add like a $15,000 to $20,000 cost on top of the heat pumps themselves. So it's just something to consider based on your home. And some people do want to put ductwork in, they don't have a problem with it. So it's really up to you, but it can connect to hot water baseboards. It can be installed in horizontal and vertical applications. So you'll see the top there is horizontal, the bottom is vertical. That really just depends on your like bedrock and some other factors that the contractor will evaluate when they're kind of doing an estimate. It can be used as a closed loop or an open loop system. So if you've got like a pond or something like that, then it could potentially be that, work as an open loop system. But we typically see a lot more closed loop systems from the contractors that we work with. So here's just some pictures. There is some of the work or of the digging that's a horizontal well. So as you can see, they don't have to go too far into the ground. They do have to dig up your lawn. So depending on the size or where you're putting it, might have to replant. That's the second picture is the actual unit inside of the house. So you can see it doesn't look much different than a traditional, HVAC unit that you might have, and it doesn't take up more space. And that's actually the unit at this place called the Octagon Barn in Knox, New York. You can see that in the third picture there. That's the unit in the basement there. And they actually have solar panels as well, which offset the electricity use that they're using from geothermal.
Well,
so basically that's kind of just some visuals for you. I personally like visuals. I like to see what's what. And then back to the price of it. So anywhere from $22,000 to $50,000 is what we're hearing. Although I think Vicki got a price is almost as high as $100,000. There is a range out there. And again, this is back to the fact that your house is unique and it's hard to know exactly what it's going to cost. So, to this piece, it's what are we going to save? So, you're looking at all these numbers and you're thinking like, oh, is this going to work for me? And, maybe you got a quote recently for a traditional system. So you're thinking like, wow, this is much more than that. And I don't know why anyone would do this. So this is just a list of kind of, the dollars per basically MMBTU. So basically energy unit that you're paying in New York based on different technologies. So most of you are probably National Grid, maybe a few NYSEGs. Basically, you're paying if you have electric resistance, and this is what I was talking about before. So electric baseboards that are not heat pump. It's the highest amount per energy rating you can be paying in New York State right now. So up to $40 per MMBTU. Propane is up there as well. So propane is also one of the most expensive ways to heat your house, and then oil, and then natural gas. Now, when we're talking about heat pumps, you can see the difference in air source versus ground source. Again, ground source being the more and most efficient way to heat your house. You can see there that A lot of the prices, especially the air source heat pumps, are above the cost of natural gas, which is what I was referring to before. So that natural gas is still cheaper than air source heat pumps to heat your house. We just haven't reached a level of efficiency that's competitive with the pricing there just yet. And then savings can vary significantly for heat pumps, even if equipment is the same and installed properly. So it really is like a very system to system, situation, what your house is, if you've done energy efficiency work, but generally, this is kind of what you can expect. So this is just a graph showing kind of protection from fuel price volatility. So the idea that electricity generally from year to year is going to kind of remain the same. So if you're somebody that really likes predictability and you really want to know, like, maybe this winter oil's real rough and next winter it's cheap and that's really frustrating to you, you can get a lot more, protection from that by moving to electrified heating. So it's just something to know, and that doesn't matter to all people, but I know personally that would be important to me. I've had oil in the past and I just hated that, like never knowing what the bill was going to be when they would fill up the tank. So on to the incentives, which is the other fun part of this conversation. All incentives currently are through your utility. So whoever your utility is the one that determines your incentives. So for air source, partial heating load, so basically the mini splits, they're $500 per unit you would get off, and then actually would go through the contractor. So the contractor would apply for that and get reimbursed for it, and they would pass along the savings to you. Air source full load heating are $1,000 per 10,000 BTUH. So that's a calculation that they would make based, when they go in and figure out how big your system needs to be. They do go up a little bit for Central Hudson. That's just because the cost of everything is a little bit higher when you get to the Mid Hudson. And then geothermal has a $1,500 per 10,000 BTU. But it also has a 26% tax credit, and it's the only technology that does. So it's really, that really can offset the cost of the high cost of those systems if you can apply for that tax credit. And of course that happens the year after you apply, unless you do it later in the year, but it's just something to note, and that can be really helpful with the cost of those. And then heat pump water heaters, these are the ones that you would apply for yourself. So with the heating systems, the contractor gets it. With these ones, you would apply yourself. So I did this myself, for example, and I got a $700 rebate on my heat pump water heater. And it's based on the gallon, so I had a smaller one. So some other incentives. So this is going back to the free energy audits and the energy efficiency upgrades. Again, this does not qualify for heat pumps. It just qualifies for energy efficiency work, duct work, or not duct work, air insulation, air sealing, those types of things are all can be covered under this program. And I think also things like more energy efficient appliances. So if you're looking for things like, I think things like more efficient refrigerators can also count under this. Don't quote me on that, but I do believe that they extend to some other appliances as well and energy efficient technologies. So again, Empower covers 100% of the cost, up to $8,000 for anyone that falls into those categories. And this is basically 60% or less of the state median income. And then assisted home performance is the median income program, which basically pays for 50% of the cost up to $5,000. So those are two programs to definitely take advantage of if you qualify. And there's some great contractors on that list. We don't have any energy efficiency contractors on our campaign, but there are some ones on their website that will help you through this process and, help you through the application and do the free energy audit and all of that fun stuff. And then loans. So once you've hopefully applied for rebates and, you know, found out that you've qualified for some, you know, Empower programs or assisted home performance, there may be still a cost left over. I would say, and I usually recommend most people go ask the contractor if they have any financing programs, because a lot of times contractors will get 0% interest for 3 years from their dealer, from whoever they're selling. So if they sell Mitsubishi, for example, Mitsubishi will offer them 0% financing for 3 years for just selling those products that they can pass along to customers. So they tend to have some pretty lucrative deals. But if they don't, or if you'd like to use the NYSERDA programs, there's the on-bill recovery or the smart energy loans. And those are based on, the rate that you get is based on the area median income for where you're applying. Anywhere from 349 up to 749, depending on, you know, the area median income. And I think most of Columbia County is up to 120%. So it's going to be the 349 or the 399. And basically the first one, on bill recovery, pays back on your bill. So you would never pay more than you're actually saving in your energy costs. So it's kind of a way to kind of make sure you're keeping your costs low. And then there's smart energy direct billing, which is another program as well. So that's kind of the gist, and you can look into those yourself if you'd like to. I can share this presentation with Roy and Vicky, who can make it available if people would like to look. But all of this is also on our website at HeatSmartCapitalRegion.com, and as well as some really cool videos and things like that. So the final thing I wanted to mention was just about our other work that we do. And, you know, some of the folks on this call may know about this type of stuff because I work with them at municipal governments, but basically we work on a program called NYSERDA Clean Energy Communities, which is municipal focused. We try to get municipal governments engaged in clean energy technologies, whether it be installing their own heat pumps or engaging in community campaigns where they're doing outreach to their residents. The town of New Lebanon, for example, is conducting a clean heating and cooling campaign where they're encouraging residents to install heat pumps in the town. If they can get 5 residents to install heat pumps or consider the technology and install them, the town can get $5,000 towards a clean energy project like a heat pump. So they could potentially use that money to install their own heat pump or upgrade lighting to LEDs or any number of clean energy projects. So it's just an important way to basically qualify this technology and make sure people are exploring it and understanding it and recognizing that it can save money in the long term. So I just wanted to highlight the work and some other communities that I'm working with in the area that are doing some wonderful things and installing heat pumps and solar and all types of things. The village of Kinderhook, the town of Kinderhook, the town of Chatham, are all doing some really good stuff. So, so that is the end of my presentation, but I've got time for questions, which I'm hoping you have some of, because I tried to cover everything, but I know there's probably going to be things that are specific to your application. And again, I'll just mention it's hard to know exactly what's going to be right for your house, but that's where an installer can come in and get a free quote. So yeah.
Wonderful.
Yes.
You want to raise your hand?
Could I'd like to thank Tara for her presentation. This is really helpful to me to understand the new technologies involved. And as a follow-up to this program, we could plan a meeting to visit homes and see a variety of installations and have homeowners talk about their experience with the installation and operation. And I'd like to get an indication from the group as to how many would be interested in this. Could you indicate by raising your hand or putting it up on the chat with the hand raise? I guess I'm
Tara, can you stop sharing? Okay, now you'll see. Sorry.
Can you raise your hand, folks? I see some hands. If you're interested in visiting some places in the community, I'd be interested if you were interested. I see 4, 5, 6, 7.
You can use the chat box. There's 2 in the chat, and you can also use reactions to put up a hand, as many people have, or you can just turn on your video and just
You could put
raise
your
your
face
hand.
on and raise your hand.
I'm not getting video here.
Who are you?
Eric.
Are you interested?
Yes.
Okay, that makes 10.
I think there's more than that. There's
I think
3
so.
in the chat. Oh, myself.
Okay, well, I don't want to hold up people from asking questions, but I did want to get some feeling from the group on that. Thank you. Tara, if there are questions, go ahead and ask Tara.
Well, I see a question in the chat, so I'll start there. Basically, can mini splits be used in our upstate New York winter zone? I was told that one needs to have a backup heating system. That is a very popular question that we get. And from our installers, they feel that if your house is properly insulated, a cold climate air source heat pump will do the job. That being said, there's a lot of people that can keep their existing heating system if they want to feel comfortable just having some backup technology. A lot of the installers will allow them to keep that, but they feel pretty confident that the cold climate systems in a properly sized and insulated house will do the job in our New York State winters.
Okay, thank you.
Tara, I have a question. This is Kathy Woods. I'm really Henry Woods. It says that the host is not allowing my video to come up, but that's okay. I can, there you go. Oh, no, still not. But here's my question, and it relates to the prior question. We have an oil heating system, and we just put in a heat pump 2 years ago. Where really the idea was to add it as supplemental heat, if you would, and also for air conditioning. In the Northeast, we found that the heat pump is actually much more effective in providing heat than we expected. So that's been positive. However, in the dead of winter, it seems like it's not nearly as efficient as it is, let's say, in like a shoulder season, in October, November type of an area. Is there a point in looking at the efficiency where it is optimum, more or less, in the Northeast to use the heat pump, as opposed to on a very cold day when it might actually be cheaper to use the oil heat? Does it make any sense?
Yeah, no, I think basically from my understanding from the installers, and somebody has asked this question before, so I'm kind of just repeating what they're saying, down to about -5, if it's a cold climate heat pump, you should be able to be as efficient, or excuse me, more efficient than existing oil or propane technology. It's when you get below that, that the efficiency is going to drop to something that may not make sense. But in a lot of cases, people don't have backup, so they're just going to go with the less efficiency during those time periods. But if you have a backup heat source, you may want to kick that in. So it really does depend on your system and the unit and the age and if it's cold climate. But that's basically there should be an efficiency rating level or a temperature level based on maybe your manual or something that you should be able to look into. And for cold climate, that needs to be at least, I believe, -5 is the number. But with the note in mind that any air source heat pump is going to drop in efficiency as it gets colder. So it's always going to be more efficient at 20 degrees than it is at 5 degrees, but it's just that it's not going to be optimum efficiency at -5 or lower.
Tara, I have a question. This is Eric regarding air source heat pumps. do I understand that if I have 3 zones in we have an oil furnace, by the way, I have a solar, recently fairly installed ground mounted solar system too, but do I understand that if we have 3 zones, I would need 3 separate heat pumps outside with an air source?
You would need, well, if you have a zone system, you've got basically the wall units. So you would need 3 separate units ideally, depending on the size of the rooms or, if they overlap,
Well,
if it's like a big
Right,
space.
but these are free zones in a, medium to large size house. I was thinking they would be outside units.
Yeah, so basically the mini splits have like an inside thing, and then on the out, it basically has a kind of a hose and it goes to the outside, and it's basically going to be in the same kind of general location on the wall on the outside. If you're talking about a whole home system, then there's going to be kind of like an outside compressor type situation that looks like an air conditioner.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
And you may just only need one of those if you have a whole home system. So.
Okay, and how noisy are they? Just curious.
Yeah, we hear that question a lot. I've heard that they're not any louder than a typical air conditioning unit. I cannot verify that though, because I've only seen one in person and I didn't have an air conditioning unit next to me to be able to verify that. But I don't know if anyone on the call can attest to that. But I think that's what I've heard.
I mean, do they run constantly or as needed, or how?
It's just going to be as needed. So it's basically going to kick in when your temperature is below or above what you need it to be based on your thermostat.
Tara, I have a question.
Sure.
It's my understanding that heat pumps are, as far as greenhouse gases go, they're a transitional type of heating and air conditioning. It's for the long run. I mean, it's a big savings energy wise, but it's still a transitional type of source.
Yeah. So ideally, if everyone was to install a geothermal system, we would be pretty much as efficient as we could get as far as heating and cooling technology. But unfortunately, with the cost that you saw, that's really just not going to happen anytime soon. So I do think that the state considers air source heat pumps to be a transitional technology for basically all those reasons, is that they're just more affordable. People can make them happen. But again, you saw those numbers, they're not as efficient as geothermal. So we really need to get there. And I don't know how we do it, but that's the ideal goal.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. I see a few questions in the chat that I will answer. So someone's asking how they can get an energy audit. There is a link on our HeatSmart Capital Region website that you can go to. Basically, NYSERDA has a list of all the energy efficiency contractors that work in New York State, and you can put in your county and figure out who, there's like a whole list that you'll see that, you can give a ring to and see who can come out and do a free audit for you. Where I live, 60% of residents are renters. How can the incentives apply to this situation? Very good question. Heat pumps, so any of those Empower and assisted home performance programs can be passed on to renters. The landlord does need to sign off on the program though, obviously it being their house. So it's based on the qualification of the renter. So especially for those energy efficiency programs, that could work. For air source heat pumps, obviously the tenant or the landlord would need to install those systems, hopefully consider it, and they could potentially save the renter a lot of money if the renter is paying for those programs. And then are there CFCs or HCFCs in heat pumps? Yes, in some cases. A few of our installers, I believe, are moving away from the refrigerant technologies. basically to more environmentally friendly technologies and the fluid basically that kind of moves the energy around. So we're getting there, although the most efficient ones are the refrigerants, unfortunately. So it is really a matter of handling those properly and making sure that whoever you're getting to install these systems has the proper training. Because with refrigerants, if you release it to the air, even for like a second, you can lose all of the benefit that you got from that system. So it's really important to handle those properly, and obviously try our best to transition away from those types of refrigerants.
Can I just comment on the question about the heat pumping transitional measure? When it's combined with passive house technology, which is a way of sealing up the house so tightly that it needs very little energy to heat and cool it, that can become a much longer term solution. So I live in a net zero house where it is served by air-to-air heat pumps, and it's net zero. So it is a much longer measure. The time period is much longer with that combination.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. That's a very good point. And that's to, the idea that like the properly built house or the properly insulated house, it really can do a very, very good job, in the long term.
Go ahead, Vicky.
Sorry, thanks. Kathy, no, not really. Just to comment on that, we did an energy audit first, which did cost us money. I don't remember exactly why, whether I was over income. The incomes change all the time. I mean, I don't make that much money, but still, it was worth every single penny that we put into it. And then we did what was asked as far as insulating the old farmhouse that we live in before we did any of these other things. And it was just necessary to do that first. Now, the other thing I want to say is if you're going to do it, you really need to shop around, because, Dandelion's name is out all over the place. And yet they wanted to put in 2 heat pumps into this farmhouse, and it was going to be, $90,000. And, we had it done for half of that, less than half of that. And so you really need to just not take one expert's information. So that's all. Thanks.
Your system, Vicky, is a geothermal, right?
I am, yes. And we do have radiators, and I wanted the radiators still to be working. I love my radiators.
Great. I see Mark, you have your hand up.
Hey, Tara. New Lebanon here, mooching off of Chatham's conferences.
It's the library, actually. So
Yeah.
you all can benefit.
We also like books in New Lebanon. Question I had is the incentive from the state for air source heat pumps. I saw there's like a formula based on BTUs, I think. Do you have a rough estimate, like order of magnitude, in terms of roughly how much of an incentive is available?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I've heard from an installer, the typical heating load is like 20 to 30,000. So you're looking at about 2,000 to 3,000 off of your system. This is like an average. Obviously, there's no way to really say how big your house is, but that's what they typically are seeing.
So that would be for the total install, maybe 2,000 to 3,000.
3,000 off of like maybe a $15,000 to $20,000 system is what we're seeing for full. That would be a full home air source heat pump.
Got it. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if iPhone has their hand up, or I think they might have had their hand up for a while. But Kathy, Kathy, if you have another question.
Yeah, it's Henry, actually. Similar to Vicky's experience with contractors, we got a range of proposals when we did our house with the heat pump. One of the areas that I found intriguing was one contractor suggested a single outdoor unit with multiple zones to cover the house. And another contractor actually suggested putting 2 separate units in to give us a certain level of redundancy. And, you know, one might be a 32,000 BTU unit as opposed to 2 16,000 BTU units. Is there any point, is it more efficient to run a 32,000 BTU unit at 50% capacity as opposed to running a 16,000 BTU unit at 100% capacity?
To be honest, I don't know the answer to that question. I have to check with a few of our contractors and survey them, because I just don't know. I have to imagine they both saw something that made them feel like it would make sense to split it up it made sense to split it up versus the one system. But I just don't know what application that would make sense in. So I'm sorry, I can't answer that question, but I can look into it for you. Yeah, and my contact information was at the end of that presentation, and I'm sure Vicki and Roy have it. So if you want to just email me and I can look into that and get back to you.
Thank you.
Oh dear, I forgot to tell everybody, this is recorded and we will put it on North Chatham Library channel on the YouTube. And all these questions are on there also. But maybe I'll just stop that recording now.
Are there